Greetings to all my listeners. Let me talk to you about COVID-19 pandemic situations which we experienced in the last 6 months. It's a unique epidemic which brought the whole world to a grinding halt. All major economies had a shutdown. Lockdowns were imposed. Most have come out of the lockdown situation. In India, we extended the lockdown 4 times. Lockdown is relaxed partially or fully. Containment zones are introduced and local lockdowns are imposed so that we can contain the epidemic situation which is created. So, under such circumstances, in the absence of any medicine which could cure us, all we need to resort to is the social distancing and personal hygiene. These are the two ways we can keep ourselves safe from this virus COVID-19 till we find a solution, a health solution for ourselves. Now it has changed the whole world. Everything has changed. At the same time, even the education has changed. It has forced so many changes into the education that we need to relook at many of the issues which we had sorted out earlier in a way which we cannot afford to do it today. It is a new paradigm, especially for the students who are the main stakeholders in this whole educational area. They have a big shift in looking into the educational system as such, the way they are being taught. Earlier, we had a collective mode, face-to-face interaction. Besides the face-to-face interaction, they sat in a classroom along with other students. So they had a very special social bonding which actually worked for the benefit of their mental conditions. And this could actually give them a very conducive education system. Now the new paradigm is completely individualistic. Learning through online, distant mode of learning, these are different ways we are deploying for people who are trying to learn in this different mode. This is a completely different situation in which the students basically sit within the four walls of a room, interact with the gadget which is parting the education, the online education which he is trying to gain in the same way what he was doing in the collective mode. So this is a very different situation which has given them many different issues which has come up. This new environment has put a lot of stress to the student community, and that has given a result which is not very positive. Depression among the youth has become a very common issue now. What we need at this moment is then to increase the resilience what we have, and the mental toughness which is required now is more than ever before. This mental stamina we need to fight back such mental conditions and then bring ourselves to a situation like before. In this new paradigm, we actually need to align ourselves in a very different way. Earlier, everything was taught externally, which was brought into the self, the internal. So there was a movement from external to internal, which is now changed, that we directly try to absorb the knowledge internally, that means individually, and then we try to spread it to the to our surroundings. So it is going from internal to external. So this kind of a situation changes the whole outlook towards the way we are gathering the knowledge. Positive cycle of thought is extremely important under such conditions. What we need is hope and courage, and we need to make ourselves emotionally stronger. We need to be able to do meditation. We need mindfulness. We need to learn to acknowledge hard emotions. We need to realize that we have to have a priority for gratitude. Make gratitude a priority. Practice positive affirmations. And we need to notice behavioral changes. These are extremely important in the new situation in which we are in. So this will basically allow us not only to survive but to thrive. So what we need to do just now in this situation is to thrive, not survive. Coming out of the lockdown, we see that it is a slow process. We are trying to come out of lockdown, and we must remember that we need to come out stronger. We try to preserve all the good things that have happened during the lockdown. It is not that it gave us only the negative disadvantages in our life. We did gain some things. And one such gain, positive outcome, is that the environment has become much cleaner around us. This is one of the big benefits of the lockdown. We know that before we came into the lockdown, we were having two primary issues for the human mankind. It was the environmental degradation we are facing because of the way we are handling our environment around us, and the energy crisis what we are facing. We need the energy because it's the economic development of a country which depends on the energy input to our society. Energy per capita consumption is something like a yardstick of your society's well-being, the economic conditions. Now, at this time, we know that the developing countries are using more and more of energy to boost their economy. However, the way we are doing the increase in the energy is something which is increasing the footprint of carbon footprint and thereby increasing the pollution. So we cannot, that means, have a development in the same way. We must try to keep the environment clean. I think after years and years, decades, we have been able to see the clean water in Ganga. Ganga flows with the clean water at this present time. The air around us is so clean, much cleaner than what it was before. The people in Delhi have been able to see blue skies after a long period. You could see the Himalayas from Punjab. You could see the Kanchenjunga from Siliguri, from North Bengal. So these are positive effects which we would like to continue with. So the question is, how long will this effect continue? We need to find out remedies so that we can preserve these states. Sustainability is the key issue. We need to reduce the pollution in the air, and for that what we need to do is to reduce the carbon footprint what we are having all around us. We know that once the vehicles start plying on the streets of the cities, industries, mills reopen, all the greenhouse effects would come back. Therefore, we would like to come back with sources which could give us more positive effect to the environment. So we bring in the new cleaner technologies to sustain our positive changes. We could stop, make rules, bring changes so that we can stop deforestation, which would help reduce the greenhouse gas effects what we are having right now. Now industry could run in renewable energy sources, which we have been already trying to jack up the production of these renewable energy sources. We are doing good progress. We'd like to continue on that and try to shade the use of the fossil fuel. The more we decrease that, better we gain in the environmental front. So we should be able to utilize these positive changes what we have during the lockdown and try to continue it for times to come. We should be able to sustain these changes because our whole evolution of our society has been based on changes in the society. So what we need to think about is that how do we bring in these changes in a sustainable manner. Another big thing happened was when the migration of the workers from the cities to the villages took place. Now, here we know that many of them probably will not go back. So therefore, we need to think of rural developments in the small scale industry sector. We can think of different cottage industries. We can think of small enterprises mushrooming out in the rural areas because these laborers, these migrant people who have come back are not really technical ability is not to that standard that you need a full-fledged big industries. But these are people who are different than the agrarian sector, people in the agrarian sector. They know they can handle some of the tools, gadgets we need so that we can have smaller scale industries coming up. With the cleaner sources of energy coming into use, we would be able to bring in the biodiversity and the requirement in the increased need of energy. Both would go hand in hand. Right now, these are two conflicts. One talks of polluting, then only we can have much more energy, the way we are doing it in the normal sector. And biodiversity is there. It flourishes when we talk of a cleaner environment, cleaner pollution. Now, when we talk of these things, we talk of changes in many of the management systems of many of these areas. Clean water management is something which is extremely important. We need water to drink. In fact, in another decades or 2 decades, by middle of the century, there will be so many cities in our country who will not have clean water to drink. In fact, even today, there are cities where clean water for utilization in cooking, in household affairs, in drinking are given to people in these cities once in alternate days. So, it is already a big necessity that we think of clean water generation, clean water requirement has become one of the main issues right now. To do many of these positive effects of things, we talk of the nanotechnology, which can contribute to many of these areas in a big way. Nanotechnology can be useful in many areas, right from medicine down to agriculture. Everywhere it could be useful. Wherever we talk of a requirement of a bigger ratio of surface to volume, then we talk of nanoparticles. So these are some modern technologies which we need to develop now. We need to take it up seriously so that it does help us to keep our environment clean in the years to come. So we have changes. Changes have come because of the COVID lockdown situation. It is changing many of our ways, the way we behave, the way we interact. The societal behavior itself is going through a change. We hardly had time to talk to our family because of our busy lifestyle. But now we have all the time to discuss each and every issue with all our family members at all the levels. Children can interact with their parents in a much more grand way. So these are changes which are there, which have made us realize that we do need to change to some extent so that we can make this world in a much better progress can be made. So the question is, can COVID experience be a catalyst to change our way of life? COVID pandemic had both the sides. We saw it. We saw that it had a good effect as well as it has effects which have made us go through a difficult situation in our life. Now let us look in some of the areas where we have suffered or what we have seen changes in the education system. There are negative points, there are positive issues. Negative issues were those which forced us now to look for a new way of starting the new academic year. It has forced us to postpone many of our exams. We are thinking now to how to handle these examinations and conclude them so that our students can comfortably go further, go progress in their educational life. Non-completion of the courses during the semester also made us go through many online education system, which we had to adapt to. And this was something which was not equitable. Not many people have the facilities which could allow them to learn things in an online mode with all other students which have done it in probably in the urban areas. But some of the positive points are there that the COVID-19 lockdown pandemic situation has brought probably the digital divide closer. The two people on either side of the divide have tried to come closer to each other. We are forced to learn many of the things of how to use these online instruments or online systems in such a way that we can go ahead with our day-to-day life. It has allowed us, it has given us the knowledge and usage of many of these online platforms. For example, Zoom, the WebEx, etc. are now become a part of our life and which we are depending on in a great way. Similarly, there have been many progresses which were waiting because of some reason or other, now we were forced to digitize many of our activities in the universities level, in the school level, so that we can now distribute this knowledge which was there as a store, can be accessed online by people from very many different ways. Now we have been able to utilize many of our technological advancements for helping ourselves in the COVID pandemic situation, for treatment of patients, or the health workers have started using many modern tools which otherwise would have come into the system in a slower fashion. For example, robots. Robots are now being used for the frontline use in our COVID treatment, where the robots are being used to take the medicines, take the food to the patients and which is given us a better safety for our health workers. We need to think, and this has come because people from different areas of expertise have tried to come together. Different universities have come together to develop many of these things. So what we have started talking about is the collaboration, which is the main theme, and not cooperation. So we have started thinking of many different ways of talking to each other, utilizing each other's expertise in such a way that we can progress in a much better, much quicker way. With this online forced, I would say, online situation for the technology education or skill development education, we can think of very different. Now people have started thinking of new technologies to help in this new paradigm. So they have started thinking of having different schools of thoughts. People are not only talking of online model, they are talking of cluster model, in which universities could cluster together, utilize each other's expertise, and then develop together to a higher status level. Similarly, experiential education is the in thing in today's life. In fact, very recently, Government of India has started experiential education to the teachers in our school level, so that all the CBSE system teachers would have a similar training on experiential education, which will be able to part to the students. We have people are talking of partnership models where government and private could have a partnership together for the progress. So these are chances we have got because of the this unfortunate pandemic situation, which forced us to make many of these things go faster because of the need under these new paradigm. It has given us, as I already told, very good chance to families. They together as a unit, and they are trying to help our economy. Changes that otherwise take years may now be forced upon us in months. Programs being conducted in campuses, they are shifted now to online mode, partially or completely. Now, slowly our pedagogical adjustments would basically make us adapt our old regulations to this new way of learning. So we need to come out in a much stronger way from this pandemic situation and force the society to learn things what we had forgotten before the pandemic situation came in. So we need to know how to preserve, how to have sustainable development so that our environment can stay clean. We can have better understanding of things in a very different way. Students also should think of the future in a very different manner. We need now more skill-oriented experience than what we have been studying in the classroom. So we need to go out, interact in the industry. We try to see the world, try to make ourselves new entrepreneurs with the requirements of this new situation and try to make our life much more in a much more positive way. We look at things and progress so that we can make our grandchildren's life more comfortable in the future. So with this, I would like to say that this is a challenge. Let's take up the challenge and progress into the new world, which will be after the COVID pandemic subsides. Thank you very much.